Hey everybody, welcome back. It's been about a week and I've mostly been working on this PowerPoint. It's about EV spreads, how to make your own, and how to make them efficient for whatever you're trying to do on your team. I think this is really important because what should the EV spread be is probably the second most frequently asked question I get after can I battle you? I mean, look at this. What is a good Shelter EV spread? Shouldn't I change the EV spread? I need help with my EV spread. What EV spread did you use? May I know the EV spread for Ferrothorn? Etc., etc., etc. These go on forever. I get so many of these. So I figured, hey, this is staring at me in the face. Like, these people, we need general information out there on EV spread ding. Like, we need help. So let me just go through my spiel, because asking someone else for an EV spread who's never used your team, doesn't know what the Pokemon on that slot on your team is trying to do, doesn't know what your matchups are like, they can't give you a good EV spread. There is not just one great EV spread that fits all, especially if you're trying to optimize something for your whole team. Let's start off with just basic example, Gyarados, okay? There are a lot of different kinds of Gyarados out there. They can do all sorts of stuff. Gyarados is great. It's got a great attack, got a great ability, got great HP. You can do so much stuff with it. For example, surviving max special attack Modest Thunderbolt from Zapdos with the Walk-On Berry. Or Dragon Dancing and outspeeding Garchomp so that the next turn you can one-shot it back with an Ice Fang. Or coming out leading against major special attackers and surviving something as powerful as a max special attack Modest Choice Specs Hydreigon Draco Meteor. There are so many different kinds of roles Gyarados can provide, and it's not just Gyarados, it's any Pokemon. Look at it this way. 228 HP with a Walk-On Berry guarantees that survive against Modest max special attack Zapdos Thunderbolt. An attack boosting nature and 100 speed guarantees that after one Dragon Dance you will outspeed Garchomp and KO back with Ice Fang. Granted, it's the 4 HP Garchomp version. And 236 special HP and 52 special defense guarantees your survive against Draco Meteor from Modest max special attack Choice Specs Hydreigon. Now, when someone comes up and asks me for an EV spread, or if you ask your friend, or if someone just gives you an arbitrary EV spread, do they know what you're trying to do with that Pokemon? It really varies. That slot varies according to what you're trying to do with it. And literally, that Pokemon could be trying to fill so many different roles. One EV spread very rarely is just a save all. It doesn't just fit all occasions. So if I was using Gyarados as a more offensive unit, I would want to put, an Adamant Nature on it, give it some attack, give it more speed, especially if I'm running Dragon Dance. Whereas if I'm not running Dragon Dance, I probably don't need 100 speed in Gyarados. I probably just need more HP and special defense, and I can still put in some attack to do some damage, or maybe put in some defense and weather some physical like Rock Slides from Tyranitar and such. So the role the Pokemon's doing, it really is different on a team-by-team basis, and so should that EV spread. It should fit that role that Pokemon's trying to do. Let's give a first-hand example. My Nationals team, it was rain-based. I had both Politoed and Ludicolo, a very common rain lead, and I did fall back on this lead quite often, maybe about 30% of the time, which is quite often for a team to use the same lead that often. At least it's a pretty decent chunk. So Politoed, Ludicolo, I loved leading with them. Sometimes my opponent would have a Talonflame, and Talonflame was kind of a headache for my team. However, I figured, let's lead with it, and we'll see what happens. Whenever I build a team, all of my Pokemon are 252, 4 spreads. So I just make them as vanilla as possible, and I adjust as I find out what I need to survive and what I need to KO. Very commonly, I would lead Rain against Talonflame, and who cares, whatever. And most of the times I would think, I wouldn't want to mind games into a Protect from Talonflame. So I'd fake out the partner, and then I'd go for a Scald on Talonflame. Now, the Talonflame of my opponent, yes, it could KO Ludicolo pretty easily, which would mean I get the KO back from Politoed, and we'd be at a pretty neutral turn so far. But sometimes my opponents would get cheeky, and they'd go for a Brave Bird on Politoed. Now, the problem with that is Jolly Banded Talonflame Adamant Banded Talonflame, and Adamant, I think even Life Orb Talonflame, all had varying degrees chance to KO my Politoed. So, when that happened, I became in a lot of trouble because then Ludicolo was sitting out here on the field ready to get picked off on the next turn. When Politoed went down, I didn't know what kind of spread they were running, so if I brought in my own Talonflame, if they were also Jolly, there was a serious threat that they'd outspeed my own Jolly Talonflame and get another KO before I was able to take it out, and I'd be down 2 Pokemon to 1, not including the Talonflame's partner's turn to attack. So this was a major problem for my team. How did I fix it? Well, I thought to myself, what can I do to make sure I make this exchange go well for myself, or at least even? So this was my original spread on Politoed. Like I said, they're all vanilla 4, 252, 252 spreads. I just do it until I figure out that I need to adjust it accordingly. I realized this Talonflame was giving me a problem, so I decided, let's make Politoed a little bit more bulky. How can I survive every form of Talonflame? Now, the biggest Talonflame Adamant Choice Band took a little bit too much investment, but I did realize that with just a simple 12 HP and 12 defense, I could survive Adamant Life Orb, Talonflame's Brave Bird. I could survive Jolly Banded, Talonflame's Brave Bird, and of course then Life Orb Jolly Brave Bird from Talonflame. Now, this is really important since I was running my own Jolly Talonflame to outspeed and KO other Talonflame. So, the only way for his Talonflame to KO my Politoed would be if it was Adamant Banded at this point, and if it KO'd my Politoed in one shot, I knew I could bring up my Talonflame at the start of the next turn, outspeed, and KO, since I know I'm running Jolly to outspeed other Talonflame. If it got the KO, it must be Adamant. Therefore, since I'm running max speed, I know I'm faster. I'm going to get the KO back. This information and that spread provided me a safety net on these first turns when I happened to lead Rain into a Talonflame and a partner. I could fake out, take the Brave Bird, and either KO back, or if it got the KO, I could send out Talonflame and know that I was going to be faster and I could get the KO and not lose a second Pokemon by turn 2. So it could go for the Ludicolo, and I could Scald the Talonflame. It could go for my Politoed. Most of the time, I'm going to survive and get a Scald back anyway. If it did get the KO, I could lead into my Talonflame, know I'm going to be faster, and that was enough peace of mind for me. For those, what was that? I invested, it had 4 HP, I gave it 12 HP and 12 defense. That was like 20 EVs, and it gave me so much information. That's how I made that EV spread. It's like that. This was a very specific threat to my team, and I knew I needed a way to deal with it, so I fixed my Politoed to survive it. And if I couldn't survive it, I knew I could outspeed it and KO it. That's how I work my EV spreads. A lot of people may do it differently, but this is how I do it personally, and I like it. I think it works pretty effectively. So how do you go about making your own EV spreads? Great question, mysterious viewer. Well, I use 2 resources pretty consistently. One, and this is the greater resource for maybe newer players or people who aren't confident they're EVing against the right things. Pokemon Showdown's usage stats. I go to Pokemon Showdown. They have a usage stats area. I click on it, go to VGC. It gives you all of the Pokemon down to like 300, 400. I don't even know. It goes all the way down. And that's what you can see in the red box on the left. Then if you click on that any Pokemon in that list on the right, it gives you that Pokemon's abilities, the usage percentage of how many people use each one, and the items. So you know what to expect, at least for a majority of the time. And these are pretty accurate as far as what you see in VGC. So it's really helpful. So I use this to determine what I need to survive against. I'll just go down the list and I'll be like, all right, let me see. Am I weak to Garchomp? Oh yeah, I am kind of, Let me see if I can survive it with my 6th Mon and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get into that in a second to give you guys a better idea on how to do that. The other resource I use is just a speed tier chart similar to this, and I only use this for speed EVs. But if you go to Nugget Bridge has one, evspreads.com has one. On the left is the speed the Pokemon's hitting, and that's in the purple box and the blue box. The nature of the Pokemon, the EVs, invest in that Pokemon, and then boosts in respective order. So if I'm sitting at a neutral 0, Meowstic and Delphox at 124, you can see that. You know that, what is that, positive 252 Scizor only hits 128. Maybe I really want to at least outspeed Scizor, so Delphox only has to beat 128. I could just put EVs up to that because positive 252 is as fast as Scizor is going to go. That was just a very arbitrary example, but you get the picture. You can go down to the Pokemon you're at, look at the base speed, and then see what's close to you and what's worth outspeeding and what isn't. So those are the two resources I bounce between when working with a Pokemon. I'd like to give you guys a flat example, though, because I think it'll help you guys understand how I go through this process. Now, this might be a little bit shortcutted, but I think this does a pretty good job explaining how I do it personally. Once again, this is just my own personal experience and opinion. This is how I did it for my team that won Nationals, so take it with a grain of salt. But up to you, whatever you want to do with it. As with all of my stuff, it's all my opinion based. I put on 5 arbitrary Pokemon that could well represent a team right now in the VGC metagame. Garchomp, Mega Kangaskhan, Aegislash, Rotom Heat, and Gardevoir. And then I thought to myself, what's this team weak to? I went down that chart I showed you guys earlier, the usage stats, and found out that Azumarill and Rain in general gives my team problems. So I thought, what can I put on to fix that? And I also noticed that I was a little Trick Room weak. So I was like, all right, let's just go ahead. Let's try Amoonguss. Amoonguss can Rage Powder away water moves. It can, get past a common Azumarill Amoonguss opponent who likes to Rage Powder away the, attacks from belly drumming Azumarill. So I figured, yeah, it's a pretty good idea. Especially because who knows whether my Spore situation, what it's going to be like to have have another thing to deal with an opposing Amoonguss, at least coming in and not having threat of being spored. It's a good idea. So I figured, let's try putting on an Amoonguss. Right now, it's completely blank. I don't know what kind of EVs I want. And so this is where the process starts. I could either A, message someone, a friend of mine, or me, hey, what's a good EV spread for Amoonguss? Or better, and what I'm trying to explain is a good thing to do, realize what your team's weak to and EV against that. So, like I said, Azumarill and Rain is pretty much what I'm worried about and why I put Amoonguss on this team in the first place. So let's get into it. Here we go. If you go back to the usage stats page, you click Azumarill, this is what shows up. On the left, you can see the percentage of people who use which ability. Pretty much you're going to always hit huge power Azumarill. The items, you're looking at a lot of Citrus Berry here. That's because it's going to be in conjunction with that belly drum you can see in the move pool on the right. Spread-wise, you're almost always about to see 252 attack. And 252 HP is pretty safe to assume. I understand the 212 one too. But this is just like, this is a good painted picture of what you're going to have to survive. 252 attack, huge power, adamant, Azumarill, with the moves, Play Rough, Aqua Jet. Protect Belly Drum is going to be the normal set. Some people run Waterfall, some people run Superpower. So since you don't have to calculate protects, I didn't put it on. You'll see in a second what I'm talking about. So I go into a damage calculator. This is also, I think, provided by Pokemon Showdown. They just do everything. I put in Amoonguss on the left. Blank set. No EVs are in there. It's just blank. No nature, no ability. You can put in the ability you want, but most times, like for Amoonguss, it's not going to matter. So completely blank Amoonguss on the left. Set the level to 50 because the level does make a difference in some calculations. Please, please, please don't forget that. And then on the right, I put in Azumarill. I put in a blank set. I level it to 50. And I go ahead and I put in the move set. It's big 4 attacking moves. Play Rough, Aqua Jet, Waterfall, Superpower if they have it. I just put it in for fun. And then I put in the EVs for Azumarill, attack and defense, or attack and HP, because that's what the popular sets had. And huge power is the ability. I should have probably put a red box around that, but you can see it's underneath. It's just down there. So I put it as if this is the Azumarill I'm going to be fighting against. Now, Amoonguss naturally is able to handle all of Azumarill's attacks as long as it's not at a +6 from Belly Drum, but let's say I wanted to be worst case scenario. Let's say Azumarill does get a belly drum up. I want something on my team to survive at least one of its attacks while I have time to try to get rid of the threat. Especially as something that can Rage Powder away at one of its, Play Roughs or Aqua Jets. So these EVs are going to be pretty important to Amoonguss's role on my team. I put Azumarill as +6 on the right, as you can see, and the damage calculation of the damage it's doing is now at the top. I put a big red box around Play Rough because that's its big attack. Belly Drum and Azumarill almost always run that. That's the attack they're going to be using if they're trying to take out Amoonguss. So that's what I really want to survive, especially if I Rage Powder it away from my teammate. plus 6 Azumarill play rough against completely vanilla Amoonguss is doing 133% to 157% to my Amoonguss. Holy Jesus, we got to do something about this. So I go ahead and I put in as much HP and defense as I can to allow Amoonguss to survive. It just so happens it takes max on both, but that will guarantee Amoonguss' life against a play rough plus 6 Azumarill. So now we're starting somewhere. At the very least, we have an Amoonguss who can survive plus 6, massive, huge power attack Azumarill's play rough. Haven't done anything with the nature, haven't done anything with the item yet, but we know Amoonguss is right in the ballpark. We can toy around with this now. Now we know what kind of our ballpark is. We're looking at a lot of HP and a lot of defense investment for our Amoonguss to do its job. So then I go and I think, is it worth 252 defense EVs? Yeah, maybe not. Let's toss on the nature because natures are awesome. There's no reason not to run a boosting nature on basically any Pokemon. You have to find a very specific example to not have a boosting nature. So I put on bold to ease up that defensive burden, and the defense was a little overkill. I was able to survive it really well. I thought I could probably save up a lot of these EVs, so I went down on the defense EVs for Amoonguss until I was just able to survive it again. Play rough, as you can see, is going to do 84 to 99% to this Amoonguss, but I'm able to survive, and I have all those extra EVs right now, like 8 EVs that I didn't have before. That probably was like the wrong number, probably 88 or something. I don't know. Don't prosecute me for my math on screen. But anyway, I have all these extra EVs now. I have 84 because there are 510 EVs total for any given Pokemon. If you didn't know that, that's probably going to confuse you without that information. But I have about 88 now to work with because of that nature. However, that's probably not the optimal spread. 252 HP and then filling in the defense usually does not equal your optimal amount of EVs used to survive a certain attack. So I went down on HP and up with defense, and you kind of just got to dance around with it until you find a number that works. Now, I was able to find out that 188 HP and 196 defense once again guarantees me to live through a play rough, except now it's only costing me 384 EVs versus the old 416 EVs. So I saved another 32 EVs here, which I'm able to add on to the rest of the EVs that I'd saved from adding on the bold nature. So now I have about 126 EVs left. I'm already surviving the Azumarill, which is really important for this Amoonguss because that was its job. Next up, I was really afraid of rain. So let's take Ludicolo, a very common member on a rain team. Probably something I'm going to want to use Amoonguss against, especially because the rest of my members have a medium to hard time dealing with rain. I go back to the usage stats. I click on Ludicolo, looking at the abilities. Most of them are Swift Swim, which means they're going to be in the rain. You're seeing a lot of Assault Vest here and a lot of Life Orb. So that's what we're going to want to. We're going to want to try to do our damage calcs around these two items, and you're going to want to look at those spreads. We're either going to face max special attack modest, or max special attack modest. So that's what we're dealing with here. However, if I want to fight back with my own Amoonguss, I can use common Ludicolo HP and defense stats to adjust my attacks. So let's get into that from here. Here's my Amoonguss that we still have. We still have the same stats from the Azumarill because we're trying to build off of the set. We're trying to build a cohesive set. And we had a vanilla Ludicolo, but we put in the special attack and the modest. Put on at first the Assault Vest, one of the two most popular items on Ludicolo. And Ice Beam's the one attack it's really going to be using against Amoonguss to fight it off. So I want to see what kind of damage it was doing. And it's doing quite a bit of damage. It's doing 49 to 59%. So 50 to 60% here with this Ice Beam. Ouch. It's kind of painful. Let's see what we can do about it. We still have, 124 EVs to work with. Now, since we spent so much, defending against Azumarill, I maxed out the special defense with what we've got. We put it down to 43 to 51.6%. Now, this isn't the greatest. Hopefully, ideally you try to survive 2 Ice Beams. But with the investment we have, it's going to be hard to do so unless we change around the nature, maybe lower, increase the physical defense of it, and then lower the EVs on the special defense to try to match it around. And even then, it may not be perfect. It would be hard pressed to find an Amoonguss that could survive both. a max, +6, the Azumarill play rough, while also getting two-shotted by Ice Beam from Ludicolo. So, you got to just sometimes play the odds here. Without the item, at least. You still get the itemization option. That's going to help. But this is the Ice Beam coming from the Assault Vest Ludicolo. Let's look at the Life Orb one too, because this was the other common item on Ludicolo. That's doing even more. That's a little scary. So we're looking at, 56 to 70 or to 67, and also 43 to 51 if it's the Assault Vest version. So keep those numbers in mind. I put on, don't forget to check out your offensive options as well. Amoonguss is part Poison Super Effects Ludicolo. Sludge Bomb's going to two-shot any Ludicolo that's not running Assault Vest, and if it is running Assault Vest, I think there's still a chance to get it, depending on the HP investment, but also its chance to two-shot you is lower as well. So you're kind of looking at an even exchange here, so long as you can survive 2 attacks. Now, with that kind of information, you can come back, put in the other Ludicolo set you see. You want to run your worst case scenario. I put in the other Ludicolo set that had 132 HP EVs because that was the other popular set. Gave it the Life Orb. It's doing 56 to 70 to 67. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. And then you're looking at this damage calc and you're thinking, maybe with a Citrus Berry, you got a 50% chance, about 50, roughly 50 to survive 2 Ice Beams. You'll two-shot it back with Sludge Bomb. So with a good damage roll, you're going to get the Ludicolo. And if it's the Assault Vest version, you're going to survive 2 shots. So definitely looking at something like a Citrus Berry here would help you because you're trying to shore up that rain matchup. So as you can see, the EVs are completely dependent on what you're afraid of playing against. And the item can shore up the other side. Because I was afraid of Azumarill. We took care of that with the spread. Left us a little lacking on the rain portion. But you can put on the item, such as a Citrus Berry, or maybe you want to run Black Sludge and run Protect and try to protect in between turns to get the health back up to survive 2 of these attacks. And those will give you your options on how to survive and run the role of the Pokemon you want it to, allow it to run the role that you're trying to get it to do. So in the end, I'd probably run this Amoonguss with 188 HP EVs, 196 defense. That's to survive the Azumarill, everything up to Play Rough, with 124 special defense. Now, you could switch around that nature if you wanted. If you want to only have and if you're comfortable with a 90% chance of surviving the Play Rough from Azumarill, you can take out some defense and put it into special defense. You can toy with this as much as you want, but these are some pretty solid numbers to accomplish what you're trying to do, especially with that Citrus Berry. It's going to give you a pretty good chance to at least do some work against rain as well as Azumarill here, and that's how I go about inventing my EV spreads. Just like that. If this is what I wanted this Amoonguss to do, there it is. Now, obviously, the HP and defense are going to help against return from Kangaskhan. Special defense and HP are going to help from Draco Meteor. So it works against a lot of different stuff, but those specific threats were what I needed Amoonguss for. That's what I want to EV against, and that's why I spend time working on an EV spread specifically for this Amoonguss for those 2 purposes. If you asked me for an EV spread and I didn't know what you were trying to survive, maybe I just thought, Mega Kangaskhan is, destroying your team. I'm just going to give you a bunch of HP and defense, whereas you secretly also needed it for rain, and I didn't give you enough special defense, and I didn't give you the right item. I gave you Rocky Helmet, and now your Amoonguss isn't doing what it's supposed to do. So asking someone for help with an EV spread if they don't know what your team is doing and what they need that Pokemon to do is very difficult. Now, the process of getting the right EV spread, it's not super fast. It takes just a little bit of time, but it's really worth it in the end, and you'll feel good about it. You feel good about a good spread. So definitely worth a shot, and it's definitely takes a little bit of time to get used to, but once you start doing it, it's really rewarding, especially when you start using it. And in the scenarios you need it against, you can feel more confident about it. So, guys, that's everything I wanted to say about EV spreads. That should get you guys started on how to, if you need help with creating EV spreads. It should get you started in the right direction, and that's really how I do it. I'll put links to the sources I mentioned in the description. And thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm sorry if you guys are already really experienced with EV spreads. I have, people of all degrees on here, so try to just appease to the masses. I hope you guys all learned at least something, and if not, I hope you guys liked listening to my voice. Thanks for listening. I'm sure this was kind of long. I'm really thirsty. That's how I can tell how long my PowerPoints are, but like I said, thanks for watching. Sorry it was so ugly, but I really hope it helped. And I hope to see you guys next time.